Okay, so since the last update about my writing, I have made a good bit of progress on the book. So I've completed it end to end in terms of just filling out all the scenes. I've been away on holiday, so that's been kind of good. I was in two minds about whether to do some writing while I was away. But I'm pretty glad I did because I hadn't finished all the full text yet. So I wanted to kind of keep that momentum of the more you write, the easier it is to get back into picking up writing scenes. So yeah, I've kind of tied the story together now, and I'm working through editing the full story. The first sort of pass of editing. So yeah, I've got a couple of sort of reflections on how things are panning out. Firstly, it's good feeling to kind of finally get the book finished. It's actually come in just under 60,000 words, so slightly small for the kind of genre that I'm going for, but I feel like it's pretty much complete in terms of the development of the story. So I'm just going to kind of go with that for now. I'm not going to try and bulk it out with extra scenes and things. So one other thing that's worth talking about is, as I've been editing it, I've kind of been thinking about the first part of the book. It's split into three parts, so three roughly equal length parts. And I've kind of noticed that the first part isn't as engaging until you get towards the very end as perhaps the rest of the book is. It picks up momentum. Now, the problem with that is, there is some momentum at the start. In fact, it starts very quickly. Kind of the three main characters, one of which has not met two of them before meet, and they sort of quickly kind of things progress on, but it kind of gradually builds, and I'm wondering if and also the kind of the development of what the characters are thinking builds, and it starts out perhaps maybe a little bit distant. I kind of like that, because it helps with like the character development side of things, but I'm kind of thinking that it's not going to be as engaging initially as it could be. So I'm wondering about whether I either try to kind of just dial up the kind of more of what the characters are thinking, and kind of their the emotional side of things, and just kind of turn the dial up a little bit in terms of the pace of things, or the alternative is rewrite sections of the first part, the less engaging sections, in a slightly different tone, and yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go with that. I think I'm just going to keep going through finishing the kind of basic editing. I'm probably about just over a third of the way through, so I've still got plenty of just basic editing to do. And then I think then it's time to think about which sections of the book need potentially rewriting, at least in part. So definitely not there on a sort of completely finished first draft of manuscript, but doing well. I think since the last video, when I was kind of mentioning a few issues that were kind of holding me back a little bit health-wise, things have moved on a little bit on that front. So we'll see how I go with that, but still sort of struggling to just fit everything in, and that life throws at you. Hence the sort of the room that I'm in still has its wallpaper stripped. Not much else, other progress has been done. Yeah, there's just it's just it's a nice feeling to get towards, to get to the end of just like the full story. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Uh, I think any reflections on the last few weeks have been kind of just, I think it's important just to keep plugging away at writing if you're in the middle of writing a book. I think I think it's well worth doing, even if it's just maybe a couple of hundred words every day or every other day. If you can keep that up, then that's better than nothing. Because if you the longer you step away from it, the harder it is to get back into it. So I think generally I'm quite proud that I managed to finish writing a full novel. I guess the next update will be potentially, having finished the initial editing, just making sure it makes sense and there's no mistakes, etc. Then it'll be how do I kind of make sure that it's engaging as it could be, particularly if with a view to trying to submit it for publishing and all that kind of thing, which I'm starting to learn a bit about. The whole process of potentially approaching a literary agent and querying, as it's called, sending a letter, cover letter with a sort of blurb or synopsis, and there's a lot of kind of differing opinions of how you should go about doing that. So yeah, that's a fair way off yet, and I'm definitely keen to probably, as I mentioned, I think in the first video about the novel, ask my wife to have a read through of it, and just see what she thinks. Just like maybe confirm, does the first part of the book need to be the pace need to be ratcheted up, or does it need to explain a bit more about the character's kind of internal thinking and kind of that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I did, once I got towards the end, I did get a little bit sort of disheartened when I first started reading through editing it, and I think it's just because I've been so close to the text, so it actually has been quite good now to take a little bit of a step back and then go back into the book and go, actually, yeah, I really like what's happening here in this scene. I really like that I've explained the backstory of this character here, or I've kind of put some little interjections of kind of what they're thinking and how that how the relationships between characters and how they're what they think about one another and that kind of thing. So I am feeling positive about it at the moment, and I'm hopeful that things will continue to progress. So yeah, that's probably it for now. Thanks for watching.